How to dominate in 2026. So guys, it's Jack here. If you're seeing this video, you probably follow me over on Instagram. Maybe we've already spoken. In this video, I'm going to show you how to break cycles of self-doubt and self-sabotage, rewire your identity, and make 2026 the most fulfilling year of your life. This isn't about quick fixes or band-aid solutions. This is about setting your life up so success becomes the default, not something you have to force. If you're watching this, I already know something about you. You're a motivated guy with big goals. But the problem is, most men today are operating with a goldfish level attention span, overstimulated, distracted, and constantly pulled in 100 different directions. TikTok brain, dopamine overload, no real focus, and a lot of that is not your fault. It's the environment that you're operating in, and we're going to break that down in this video. So, if you actually want 2026 to be the year you break through, not another year of false starts, make sure you stick around. Because at the core of this, what you really want is simple. You want to feel more masculine and aligned in how you show up day to day. You want to reach that maxed out potential you've already had glimpses of, the version of yourself you've visualized before. You don't want to feel half switched on anymore. And if that resonates, then I already know something else too. You've probably been on this train before. Let's be honest, in the last year or two, you've probably tried to fix this. You might have started training harder, cleaned up your diet, tried supplements, biohacks, maybe even a side hustle, pushed harder in your career or business, watched mindset and motivation content, told yourself, this time I'm actually locking in. And for a short period, it worked. You felt better, more motivated, more disciplined, but then something slipped. Energy dipped, focus went, consistency fell apart, and suddenly you were back asking the same question. Why does this never seem to stick? That loop is exhausting, and it quietly eats at your confidence, and it's where 99% of men stay stuck, which is why you're here right now. Here's the first thing I want you to hear clearly. That cycle does not mean that you're broken, and it does not mean that you lack discipline. It means you've been trying to fix symptoms, not root causes. The modern world is obsessed with plasters, quick fixes, hacks, short-term motivation, but very rarely do we stop and ask, why is this problem actually happening in the first place? What even is the root problem? Most men don't have 5 separate problems. Their relationships feel off, their money feels stressful or stagnant, their health feels inconsistent, their mindset feels noisy, their purpose feels unclear, but what they actually have is one root misalignment, expressing itself everywhere else. When the core is off, everything downstream suffers. Here's the part most men don't want to look at. Whether intentional or not, the modern world is optimized for weakness, overstimulating media, endless dopamine loops, ultra-processed food, hormone-disrupting chemicals, constant outrage, comparison, and distraction. All of it pulls you away from clarity, strength, and self-trust. And here's the mistake most men make. They try to build offensive power, more money, more muscle, more status, more grind, without ever building defensive systems. You're out here trying to win while leaking focus, energy, and discipline from every direction. Think about it like this. You don't win a war by only upgrading weapons if your supply lines are compromised. Most men today are trying to work harder, train harder, hustle harder, while their attention is hijacked, their dopamine is fried, and their identity is fragmented. That's not a motivation problem. That's not a willpower problem. That's a defensive failure. Psychological warfare isn't dramatic. It looks like TikTok brain, chronic distraction, constant second guessing, inability to sit with discomfort, needing stimulation just to feel normal. You're not lazy, you're overstimulated. and an overstimulated man can't hold a clear identity. And it's not just psychological, it's physiological. Low testosterone doesn't just affect your body, it affects your confidence, your decisiveness, your tolerance for stress, your ability to delay gratification. When your hormones are off, your signal to the world is weak, and the world responds accordingly. So yes, you were right to start working out. Yes, you were right to want to make more money. Yes, you were right to build something meaningful. But the missing piece isn't more offense. It's alignment. Defense first, signal second, momentum third. That's why this isn't just about discipline. It's about rewiring the environment, the mind, and the body at the same time. That's exactly why the path to alignment starts where it does. Not with hacks, not with motivation, but with awareness, environment, identity, and signal. Because once your defenses are solid, offense becomes effortless. This is why testosterone matters, but not in the way most people think. Testosterone is not the goal, it's the signal. It reflects how you sleep, how you eat, how you handle stress, how you live. When those inputs are broken, the drive collapses. When they're aligned, discipline becomes automatic. Everything comes down to three things working together: mindset and identity, how you see yourself, the world, and the standards that you operate by. Hormones and biology, your internal engine. Structure and routines, what runs your life on autopilot. They all need one another to work. If you miss one, everything else feels forced. But when you align all three, effort drops dramatically. Clarity becomes inevitable. This is the piece most men never get shown. Most people think one thing fixes everything. Money is a perfect example. This is why you see rich men who still feel lost and unfulfilled. I've been there myself, making a lot of money, but my hormones and my routines were off, chasing quick fixes, trying to put an external plaster over an internal problem. And this is why hacks never fix it. Tools only work after alignment, not before. Most men try to amplify a system that's already broken. They add supplements to a stressed nervous system. They add routines to a chaotic life. They add motivation to a misaligned identity. And then they blame themselves when it doesn't hold. Over the last few years, I realized something. What people call the laws of the universe aren't abstract ideas. They're stages of cause and effect. Let me explain this through real examples. Newton's third law states that for every action, there is always an equal and opposite reaction. This means whenever there is a negative force pushing you down in life, there is always a positive force waiting to be lit. The negative force is what lights the positive one. This is why every aligned man you hear from has a similar story, a massive negative that triggered a powerful comeback. For me, it was breaking my neck, lying in a hospital bed, thinking I was paralyzed and might never walk again. One thought hit me hard. My life could end at any moment. As humans, we don't appreciate health until it's almost gone, physical or mental. That negative force created an equal and opposite reaction. I stopped bad habits, I obsessively researched health, hormones, mindset, and then implemented structure and routines. That pain did not destroy me, it redirected me. I needed that negative to create the positive. That's Newton's third law in real life. And that realization is always the first step to change. Which brings me to the next step, where most men fail at the first hurdle, and I have countless times in the past failed at this hurdle, chasing quick fixes before understanding alignment. You've probably heard of the law of attraction, but people still try to skip it. The modern lifestyle has programmed you for speed, convenience, and instant gratification. That's the chaos most people are stuck in. That's where I was stuck for years, chasing happiness, chasing progress, chasing money, chasing outcomes, chasing girls. These things can work short term, and for me it did. I've always known I'll be successful, but I didn't know how yet. and I spent years chasing. And one summer, I started making a lot of money very fast and very easily through something called copy trading. 16 grand in 1 month. I was making more money than my brain could handle, and more than I deserved. And my subconscious mind knew that, so this led to self-sabotaging. I spent the rest of that year partying, chasing short-term happiness, chasing girls, and chasing more quick fixes, but I ended up with none of them. I still felt lost, I felt unfulfilled, like something was missing or broken. But then, I learned something important. Every time you chase something, you program your subconscious mind that you're not worthy of it yet. That's why quick fixes fail. That's why get rich quick will fail in the end. That's why chasing happiness leads to short-term pleasure and long-term emptiness. When I stopped chasing and started aligning, things changed. That's when awareness finally hit. I'd overcome the first hurdle where most men stay stuck forever. I knew not to chase now. I knew I had to start the alignment, because after awareness is where alignment truly begins. You cannot align something you are not fully aware of. I stopped asking, what do I want right now? And I started asking, who do I need to become to attract what I want? I visualized the future version of myself, and for the first time, I had real belief and real manifestation of the man I was becoming. Not hyped, not chasing trends, but grounded, clear, disciplined, and aligned. Identity always comes before behavior. You've probably heard the phrase, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and it's true. My biggest progress didn't happen in the same environment. It happened when I changed who I was around. I detached from my old inputs, surrounded myself with action takers. I invested in mentors, coaches, and online education, people I actually wanted to become like. Most people take advice from people they have zero interest in being like. That's why environmental shifts accelerate your growth. When the environment changes, your state changes, energy stabilizes, focus sharpens, confidence increases. This isn't mystery, it's biological. You literally operate at a higher frequency and higher state when your inputs change. And when that happens, opportunities start meeting you halfway. I positioned myself publicly around health and hair loss. I shared value without expecting anything back. I even wrote an ebook and gave it away for free. A few months later, a brand reached out. That deal made me over $18,000 in the first month. I didn't chase it, I was positioned for it. That's an example of alignment in action. Of course, action locks it all in. Nothing works without action. You can have awareness, belief, understanding, but without daily structure, reps, and consistency, nothing becomes real. Eventually, discipline stops being something you try to do. It becomes who you are, and that is alignment. Alignment doesn't feel like hype or the next trend. It feels calm, clear, grounded. You don't negotiate with yourself. You don't make false promises anymore. You trust your word. Life feels quieter, but more powerful, more clear. And if this resonates, here's what I'll offer. Below this video is a link to book a coffee chat call with me. This isn't a sales call. It's a conversation where we look at your situation, identify where misalignment actually is, and map a rough path forward. If it makes sense to work together, we'll talk about it. If not, you'll still leave with more clarity. 2026 doesn't need more effort. It needs alignment. Reality always responds. The only question is how.